My guest today is Mr. Alain Deletroz, who is Vice President for Europe of the International Crisis Group.
Yes, exactly.
And as Mr. Deletroz just reminded me, Europe includes Russia, it includes the Caucasus, and he's here on one of the periodic visits that the ICG leadership makes to try to understand the situation in the region, in Armenia, the conflicts in the region, and to talk about them. And what I'd like to do, if we could, is talk a little bit globally first about this really difficult task that ICG has put on itself. I mean, we Armenians want to and need to resolve our problems because they're existential for us. And you guys have chosen to explore these seemingly intractable problems. How do you define success? What is success for the ICG in all the many issues that you study?
Well, I think success for us would be, of course, when we could claim that we have prevented a conflict.
Prevented.
But this is always difficult for us to claim, because when we have been successful, it means that actually somebody else, a politician usually, would have followed first shared some of our analysis and then followed some of our recommendations.
So your audience is the people on the ground in the situations, or your audience is Europeans, policymakers, institutions? Who are you aiming at?
Well, both actually. I mean, if you look at the sets of the recommendations we come up with in each report, the first set is usually for the local players, the local governments in the one given conflict, and the second set to the international organization and the regional or great powers which are involved or could be involved and could weigh in positively in this conflict. So we have the two sets of recommendations. If you look at your region here, for instance, my colleagues, the director for the South Caucasus, is not only analyzing the situation, but he's also going around in the three capital cities of the region to talk about our recommendations and our analysis with the political forces of these three countries. And me, I do the same, but with the European institutions in Brussels, the relevant member states in this present case of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, concretely France as the co-chairman of the Minsk group, and Moscow. So this is the way we work. We try to have it on the ground and in the international institutions and with the great powers.
You know, of course, that ICG reports have come under attack in this region from all sides. Is that a good thing when everybody's equally unhappy? Do you try to play politics and try to keep this even-handed approach?
No, we don't try to keep it even-handed. I think we do want to remain seen as impartial, but not as neutral, if you see the nuance between the two. I will take an example, maybe not in this region, but with Kosovo. It took us till 2005 to come up with a report in which we said very clearly that, according to our analysis, the only way to put a full stop to the conflicts in the Balkans was through the recognition of the independence of Kosovo. So from that point onwards, we were not neutral anymore, because Serbia was taking ICG as an organization going against its own interests. But I think we were still impartial, because what motivated our decision was the political analysis of the situation on the ground, and not because we had some sympathies for the Kosovars and not for the Serbs, if you see my point.
So in our case, we often wonder what it is we can do to make a better case for the very basic principles that are at stake here in the Karabakh conflict, obviously I'm talking about. The issues of security and self-determination, in the sense that these people get to decide for themselves where they think their future lies. What is it, I don't even know if I can ask you this question, what is it we should be doing better to make sure that that point of view is understood? Now, whether it's sustainable, tenable, convincible is a different matter. But are we making our point? Is that clear to the international community that our bottom line is security and the ability to make our own decision for what happens next with this population and that piece of land?
Well, I think you have been making this point loud and clear, and that everybody's hearing this point so clearly that, the Minsk group and the international diplomats who are trying to work on this conflict have the feeling that they are in a almost in a dead end right now, that nothing is moving. Of course, you still have the two presidents meeting whenever you have a, either an OSCE summit,
Sure.
or as we've just seen in Kazan. But the general feeling is that when one side goes for, an opening on one issue, then the other side moves back, and vice versa. Talking with the diplomats working on this issue, I have the feeling that they are a little bit discouraged right now. And you have another phenomenon with this Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, which is a little bit unique, I must say. ICG is covering right now 64 conflicts in the world, so we have some,
experience.
We can compare at least. But I think what is unique is that on this conflict, one gets the feeling that there is always an electoral agenda giving the excuse for the diplomatic agenda to be stopped. So for instance, this year, it's your electoral year. You are getting into elections, so you're here saying, okay, Armenia is having elections, so nothing will move. Another year it will be Azerbaijan with elections. The third year it would be Russia or whoever, or Iran even, why not? I think the electoral agenda around this conflict is overplaying a little bit the issue in my views. But what I would find as a priority for these two countries, if you look at your geostrategical position in this very strategic corridor in the South Caucasus, and if you look at the neighbors you have between the great powers and the regional powers, you would think it would be in the best interest of both Azerbaijan and Armenia to find a way to accommodate this security agenda that you spoke about, with also the question about Azerbaijani territorial integrity. But again, the recipes are more or less on the table. I think that the final, the red lines of the two sides are pretty well known, and the basic architecture of what an agreement would look like the day there will be peace is known from all the sides. What seems to be blocking the situation now is the difficulty for the two governments to move into the sphere of shaping something that would be a compromise. If you want peace, you have to go for a compromise, right? And a compromise that would be seen as acceptable for the two public opinions. And I think right now we are still far from there.
Well, if they would let me do this for another 20 minutes, I would argue with you and say that I think we've put on the table whatever there is to put on the table, and we're willing for the compromise. But this is truly a great demonstration of the complexity of this situation, where an organization that's been following this as long as ICG has it feels that it really is up against the wall, as many of us do here in the region. That we really need to be moving forward, and if Kazan and the Azerbaijani reaction was any indication, we're not going forward for a while, it seems. But thank you for talking to us, and I hope we get to do this again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.